Minister, all that you're saying, it seems to me, demanded a serious discussion with the National Commissioner for all the reasons that you mentioned.
Yeah.
It seems to me to demand a serious discussion.
Yes.
And consultation.
Yes. And this is what we've been doing throughout the period after I got appointed.
There's a fundamental difference of view of the evidence that we've heard today. And for example, the two key people involved in this task team were never ever consulted about it, and that is Khumalo and General Mkhwanazi. They are the two people directly concerned. I mean, this directive, it doesn't even speak directly to this organogram or the structures in the police. It is directly aimed at three things: ports of entry, intelligence, and political task teams.
Yeah.
So I don't know who you speak to about ports of entry, maybe Home Affairs and maybe speak to them, because they also have a role to play there and they should be consulted. Of course, intelligence, there's nothing that we hear from you that they were engaged or that the director of intelligence, who also happened to be Khumalo or Sabia, that they were engaged in all of this. There's no indication from you.
Now, don't be under the impression that when I got appointed, the next thing I did was to write directives. And the next thing that happens, I'm in the commission, I'm in the ad hoc committee. It didn't happen that way. You may have just been introduced in the situation and the challenges that we're having, but we had many discussions since I got appointed. I did indicate that the orientation which got elevated to discussions, which got elevated to decisions, took place. I've had, before leave, more than 28 meetings, more than that, with the leadership of SAPS, and more than 9 meetings with National Commissioner alone. Now, it's another thing to say, what were we discussing? But I'm making it sound serious that I've had those meetings. And throughout those meetings, we were discussing serious stuff, serious issues. All of these things that you're mentioning, that Khumalo, National Commissioner, we have had discussions with them, even on just intelligence alone. And therefore, all the matters that are in my directive or in my directives were discussed. What was not discussed with them is the directives themselves. I have said I didn't discuss directives with anybody else before I wrote them. I wrote them, but the matters that constitute substance behind each of those directives are well known to the people that you're mentioning.
Well, can we just leave it there? And I'm sure honourable members of the committee will ask you more on this. But there's just a fundamental disagreement that you, at any stage, discussed specifically the political task team and your thoughts about it before the directive was issued on the 31st of December 2024.
I have indicated very patiently that I could not discuss these directives with anyone for reasons that I've advanced. One of them, I've indicated that some of the people that are involved here were people who raised fundamental concerns with their safety. And I had to think, how do I, on one hand, bring them on board and on the other hand, process their situation, which was convincing to me, was a fundamental issue to me. How do I combine the two? That's why I said at the beginning of the year, there was some thoughts about an inquiry, ministerial inquiry, because I couldn't ignore those things that they discussed. So I have made quite a serious attempt to convince you that I was in no position to discuss the actual directives with anyone before I wrote them, nor did I have the opportunity because I was working and then I had only 2 or 3 days. And that when I did so, there was nothing constitutionally wrong. There was nothing legislatively wrong. And I checked that. But I do want to say to evidence leader, Senior Counsel, National Political Killings Task Team is not all about policing in South Africa. It's not everything about policing in South Africa. There is a lot outside there. In fact, everything outside this, I don't have an English word. It's just part. Remember, this is not even a unit. It's a team. How much importance do you can't say it's a national priority. Work done by a team, important as it was, and having contributed as they did, but it's not. It can't be made a national priority on policing in South Africa amid the challenges that we have.
Now, Minister, your lawyers responded to a request for information that we put to you, and there was a response on the 1st of October. It's the response you'll find, it's at Exhibit Bundle 4, pages 1 to 13. And amongst the responses is at page 4, under the heading Relevant Facts Preceding the Disestablishment. So the first one was on 31 October, several letters of complaint from Ms. Mary de Haas. On the 6th, there was again an official complaint that she registered with the Portfolio Committee on Police. Then you referred to the emails and text messages from a former SAPS official, Ms. Patricia Mashale. You also took into account media reports involving, regarding the involvement of crime intelligence in the murder of politician Mr. Sindiso Motaka. Then on 13 November, a complaint to the NPA from Member of Parliament, Mr. Fadil Adams. And then you say on November, your Chief of Staff, Mr. Nkabinde, addressed a letter to IDEC regarding the allegations made by Mr. Adams. And following the above detailed complaints, on the 21st, you convened a meeting with the Deputy Ministers of Police to discuss the allegations. Then further on, you also mentioned on 22 November, you convened a meeting attended by the Deputy Ministers, the National Commissioner, Deputy National Commissioners, and all the provincial. Although you do indicate here, the purpose of the meeting was to discuss the Ministry's deep concern on, namely, the murder rate, escalation of firearms, including illegal firearms, drugs, and GBV plus F, gender-based violence. There's no mention here of you discussing the political killings task team, and then you go on to mention budgetary complaints and the work study. So many of these things mentioned in this information note from your lawyers incorporate some of the reasons that you discussed yesterday. Now, firstly, they're not in your directive, your letter, as some of the reasons. And also, there's nothing in here which tells us that you had consulted or specifically spoken about this to either the National Commissioner or Mkhwanazi or Khumalo, who were heading this task team. What is interesting in the note, you say a decision was taken at the meeting on the 21st of November that you held with your deputy ministers, that the minister would engage the National Commissioner on the concerns regarding the allegations against the NPKTT. And then there's nothing after that. On the 22nd of November, it wasn't discussed in the meeting. So on this note, can you confirm that you did not discuss it with the National Commissioner before you issued the directive on the 31st of December?
That I didn't discuss the directives with him?
No, not the directive. Some of the reasons that inform your decision to issue the directive.
No, I didn't discuss the directives with anyone, including...
No, we accept that. I'm not going to argue with you about whether or not you had the prerogative or the right to issue the directive. I'm discussing what informs the directive, and we've been through the directive. There's two reasons that's apparent from the directive. You then also mentioned that there's other reasons that inform the directive. You mentioned that you have a full opportunity of explaining that to the committee. I'm asking specifically about discussing your reasons for wanting the task team terminated with the National Commissioner and with Mkhwanazi and Khumalo.
Now, I have indicated many times yesterday, I did, that the directives were an accumulation of issues that we had been discussing and things that had been things that I'd been getting to know in the department. In other words, when I was appointed, I didn't just settle on the 31st. There were many discussions. There were many things that I read and that I got to know in the process before. So they were, and throughout the period, I've been discussing with all the people that are involved, but not with the intention that one day I would write a letter of directives. So it's absolutely not correct to say I had not discussed with this. And on the three generals that you are talking about,
right.
Now your assistant keeps on engaging you when I speak. When you speak, she doesn't engage you. I don't engage with anyone.
No, sorry. My apologies, Minister. You're right. You should be.
Okay. So the impression I'm getting is that my response is not important, but what you say to me is important. And I have a problem with that. So I'm saying, I did say yesterday, I did not have any particular meeting with General Khumalo, no, General Masemola, General Mkhwanazi, and General Khumalo. And in a day focusing on the National Political Killings Task Team, there's no such. But discussions include that fall within all the terms of reference. And discussions about this did take place in the meetings that we had. One of them is on the 1st of November. One of them is on, I think, the 22nd of November, the minutes of which I didn't get. I'm still seeking. So it's not like I never had a discussion with anyone on the matters. These are challenges that are within SAPS. These are challenges that we've been discussing. These are challenges that everybody in the top management of SAPS is aware of and had been discussed, but not with a view to writing directives. Those are mine, and those I sat down to think about, and I came up with them, as I say.
Minister, I was asking you about your response, which I must accept and assume your lawyers were instructed by you. And in your response to us on the 1st of October,
Yes.
there is no mention, despite the fact that you held a meeting with your deputy ministers to discuss the allegations and other issues in the South African police.
Yes.
Despite the fact that there was a decision taken, according to this note, at that meeting,
Yes.
that the minister would engage the National Commissioner on the concerns regarding the allegations. Despite the fact that your lawyers write on the 22nd of November that there was a meeting
Yes.
between the ministry, the National Commission, and all the senior police, you never discussed the task team. Is this note wrong? Is there a mistake? Because it doesn't accord with what you told us yesterday and what you are insisting on today, that you discuss this matter at least with the National Commissioner. You seem to today even not to be saying you discussed it ever with Mkhwanazi or Khumalo.
If the letter does not necessarily pick up the meeting of the 1st of November and the meeting of the 22nd, it doesn't mean that it didn't exist. It doesn't mean that it never happened. And it doesn't mean that we never discussed it. It just means that there was an omission in the letter.
Sorry to interrupt you. I'm not referencing the letter at all. I'm referencing a response that was given to us as evidence leaders by your lawyers on the 1st of October. And there's nothing in this response which says that you consulted or had a meeting one-on-one with the National Commissioner about the allegations concerning the task team. This is what this is. The other thing also, I might as well, while I raise this, that the note also doesn't say, is that, and by the way, this team operated illegally since 2022, because you know what, in terms of a 2019 work study, this is just a temporary task team, and I had full authority under the Constitution and the Police Act to disband it. That's also not what this is. That is what I'm asking you about. So I'm asking you, is that an oversight? Is that not what your instructions were? Can you tell us why is there a discrepancy between your evidence of yesterday and today and this note which comes from your lawyers?
Well, I don't have sight of your letter in terms of what you wanted from us by the 31st. But even if I have, if there was an omission, I'm ready to admit that there would have been an omission. But today, I have a submission. I have a submission that I've made to the Ad Hoc Committee, and I've included everything that is at my disposal, understanding fully that I'm in front of the Ad Hoc Commission, and we've done work with the lawyers. We have already pointed at some of the discrepancies anyway, in the letters and all of that during some earlier submissions, and I have no problem with that. It would mean that it would have been a discrepancy, but we are in the ad hoc committee, and I've tried my best to remember everything. That includes, by the way, even matters that you didn't ask us to bring to your attention at the time that you demanded or you requested information, which I will make available in the course of this engagement with the ad hoc committee, even though you didn't ask for those. And I'm sure you'll understand and bear with us if there is any discrepancy.
Well, quite frankly, that doesn't matter whether we ask for it or not. When you have an opportunity, I'll read our letter to your lawyers now. But the response is a detailed response from your lawyers. It's a detailed response, and you have it in front of you. It's on page 6 of Exhibit Bundle 4. And I'd be, and especially that I also happen to know and have a huge regard for your lawyers who are advising in this matter, that they wouldn't mention. They don't mention anything about having a consultation with the National Commissioner. This is what we asked. A request for information. It is dated, what's today? Yeah. It's dated, request for information, the date, time, and people who attended the briefing or briefings to the Minister on the political killings task team. We mentioned time of the meeting. There was one in it's 21 November, you met with the deputy ministers. The affidavit, the affidavit submitted by the minister to the ethics committee, which we will have a look at in respect to the 5th March committee hearing. The evidence leaders first requested this information on 12 September 2025. Request for written responses. What, in the minister's understanding, is the constitutional role of the Minister of Police as against the National Commission, which has been explained. A chronology and summary of the complaints received in respect of the PKTT and, where possible, documentary evidence of such complaint. You've got Dahas, you've got Mashale, you've got Adams, all those things. Were these complaints directed to the relevant persons? And were they given an opportunity to respond or address the complaints? If so, who are the persons to whom the complaints were directed? We talk about Nkabindi's letter to IDEC and the referral of the complaint. Did General Mkhwanazi make an attempt to contact you after the directive that you issued on 31 December 2024? So those are the questions that we asked, and these are the responses. And what is missing from this response is any meeting or engagement with either the National Commissioner or Mkhwanazi or Khumalo about the political killings task team and your concerns about it, which has by now already been informed by Dahas, Mashale. You had a meeting with your deputies on the 21st of November. You talk about a decision, not even a suggestion. A decision was taken by you and your deputy ministers that you would engage the National Commission. And you didn't. Or are you saying you did, but it's now missing from this response from your lawyers?
Now, I want to repeat in my response that if I didn't include, or we didn't include in our response to you, any issue, for instance, about the decision that we took or the resolution that we took, it does not mean that we did not resolve, as I say in this submission to the ad hoc committee. We did resolve in the manner that I'm saying in my affidavit today. If it was omitted there, it means there was an oversight. That's number one. Number two, if we didn't include the meeting of the 21st and the 22nd, it would mean that it was an omission, or it would mean that we were still trying to get information on that, but we always knew that that discussion did take place, but we just had to submit evidence to you to say we did have a discussion, even if it was not a day, even if it was not with the three generals, but we did have a meeting or meetings that we discussed, and we've shown evidence, we've given you evidence of the meeting of the 21st. And we say there was another meeting. We may not necessarily have access to that in terms of documents, but it did take place, and it is true that it did take place. Now, we may not have indicated everything in our response at the time, but we acknowledge that we have tried by all means to make an effort to bring everything we are aware of to my statement, not just to that response at that time, to the statement to the ad hoc committee, which we have tried to make as inclusive as possible of everything to the best of our ability. And I think that that would be my statement, that there may be an omission of one kind or the other, but it doesn't mean that what we are bringing today should be disregarded in any way.
Okay. So this is not quite a court case, so I'm not going to engage you any further. I've put to you from our side what our understanding is from the evidence that's been led so far. You've given your version. I'm just going to leave it there, okay?